I do want to talk about Devon Archer for a minute. Devon Archer, I can't say it any better than Jonathan Turley. You know, he's a law professor at George Washington University. He's a very fair guy. He sent out a tweet thread, so I'm just going to read it rather than paraphrase it so people can understand. And this is a summary of what he's read in the Devon Archer transcript, you know, because he gave testimony behind closed doors on Monday to Congress. It wasn't on cam, but it was transcribed. And Jonathan, and they just released it today, the transcription. So here's a couple of highlights. He writes, the Devon Archer transcript is out. Archer said the Ukrainians wanted Hunter Biden to help relieve pressure from the prosecutors looking into corruption. You remember that. In particular, Burisma was under investigation, and they knew that it was going to start to get ugly for them, and they wanted relief from that investigation. They wanted the Bidens to take the heat off. Biden later insisted on the firing of the prosecutor. Just to put some meat on those bones, specifically what Devon Archer said, this is my own research here, that was that the Ukrainians wanted Hunter to help relieve the pressure from Shokin, that's the prosecutor, and that they asked Hunter to make a phone call. This is what Devon Archer said, asked Hunter to make a phone call to D.C. to help them, Burisma, this Ukrainian board, this Ukrainian oligarch, with said pressure. That was in December 2015 at a Burisma board meeting that happened in Dubai. Hunter was there, Devon Archer was there, the Burisma CEO was there, and they turned to Hunter and said, please call DC, help get this pressure off of us. 3 months later, 3 to 4 months later, March 2016, that prosecutor was fired. Yes, it had the support of the international community, but it was Joe Biden who made it happen. That's the truth. And you could say, oh, okay, he had absolutely no personal motive on it. He had no idea that Hunter and Burisma wanted this guy fired. But according to Devon Archer, he did have an idea. He was on the phone with them. And according to that FBI Form 1023, he was specifically told that the stakes of this relationship were fire this guy Shokin. Now, Devon Archer said he did not know about any $5 million bribe either to Hunter or to Joe, as alleged in that FBI form. But he did say, picking back up on the Turley texts, quote, there was a discussion of $142,000 purchase of a luxury car for Hunter as part of his payments, as well as various wire transfers. Devon Archer said the Biden brand was Joe Biden, and that's what was being sold. It was clear that they were not looking for Hunter, and meaning his expertise. Burisma owner Zlochevsky reportedly said Hunter was stupid and his dog was smarter. Devon Archer appears with Tucker and talks about the many, many calls, at least 20, that Joe Biden had while Hunter was in the midst of these business meetings. And here he is on camera now describing that. It's SOT 1.
I think I can definitively say at particular dinners or meetings, he knew there were business associates, and or if I was there, I was a business associate too. To be, completely clear on the calls, I don't know if it was an orchestrated call in or not. It certainly was powerful though, because, if you're sitting with a foreign business person and you hear the vice president's voice, that's prize enough. I mean, that's pretty impactful stuff.
That's it exactly, right? That's it exactly, Andrew. Now, unlike what Dan Goldman says, which is, it was just niceties, it was just about the weather, and there's nothing to see there.
Yeah, Dan Goldman is now my favorite politician because he's just hilarious. He's so corrupt that he actually is a walking joke.
So dishonest.
But let's not forget this. Not only did Joe Biden brag about getting the prosecutor fired because he said he was corrupt, but he got him fired by threatening to withhold American aid. So he was using your and my money that's supposed to be put into, building countries, helping countries, whatever we want to do with it, whatever serves our interests. And he used it to get this guy fired. So if you look at the timeline is absolutely incredible. Barack Obama, who by the way, I really dislike him as a political figure, but I always thought he's not money corrupt. He's an ideologue. He actually is like the old Maoists. He's actually honest in that way because he's actually trying to accomplish a political goal. He puts Joe Biden, his vice president, in charge of corruption in Ukraine and dealing with the corruption in Ukraine. And Hunter Biden then starts to get these jobs with Burisma and starts to work with the Ukrainians. So Joe Biden says to us, I never talked business with my son. And my thought now is, why not? Why didn't you say, son, I'm in charge of dealing with corruption in Ukraine. Don't take that job. Don't be there. There is a kind of a weird iron grip of extortion and blackmail between father and son here, where there's no way Joe Biden can abandon his son because his son has the goods on him, and they are coming out. And let's also not forget that the minute that form was released showing, or at least alleging that there was a bribe, a $10 million bribe offered to these clowns, it was the next day that the federal indictments against Trump started coming down. So every time malfeasance by the Bidens is exposed, it's followed in a single day by an indictment again and again. It's happened now 3 times. So this chain, if you just look at the timeline, the timing, the way things happen, the corruption is so blatant and so arrogant that I can only think, and this is what I do believe, that they are using this corruption to tell the American people, watch yourself, because we will do this because we can. We do not have to, we don't do this for the rule of law. We're not doing this for fun. We're doing this to let you know we can do this. It is corruption itself is an instrument of power, and it's so obvious. And if, of course, we had an honest press, this would be surely the biggest scandal since Watergate. I mean, the cover-up of this guy, this desiccated old man who has been corrupt since the beginning. I mean, he's never been an honest guy. The corruption, the level of influence peddling is just astounding.
Yeah, and it's starting to come out. And the more that comes out, the more he indicts Donald Trump. He and his Democrat cronies.
I know. Joe Biden is so corrupt that Donald Trump is going to have to spend all his money fighting indictments. That's basically the
Well, that's
the
what's
system,
alarming.
The place we
So we were talking about this yesterday. That's what's really alarming for the Republicans right now, who I get it. They love Trump and they want Trump. But Trump is going to have to spend the vast majority of his time and his money over the next 18 months fighting these incredible criminal threats to his freedom. And, and I understand it. People want him to fight, and they don't mind if their money goes to support some of that. But every dollar spent on the Trump criminal trials is another dollar that's not spent, getting the get out the vote effort going for Republicans and making sure people are registered and making sure the right advertisements are being made and submitted against Joe Biden and the Democrats and so on. Like it is going to be a cascade that distracts not just Trump, but all of his supporters and the Republicans who will not be focused as much on the election, but on all of this.
And it may actually work on Trump to get him out of the race in the following way. If you've ever had a sick friend, when people are sick, they become fascinated by their own symptoms and they can't talk about anything else. And that happens to people when they have legal problems too. And I'm hearing from people who go to some of Trump's rallies that he goes off on these riffs about his legal problems, and the audience starts to lose interest because they're not there for Trump. They're there for what Trump can do for them. That's why the way we go to politicians. We go to politicians for what they can do for us. And Trump is becoming like the old comedian Lenny Bruce, who stopped doing comedy routines and just started reading transcripts from his trials. And that is happening to Trump already, because Trump is a narcissist and he is mostly interested in Donald Trump. And I think that...
They kind of all are, though, in his defense.
Yeah, no, they are. It's true. But he's kind of he's an extravagant guy in every way, in good ways and bad ways. And so he's an extravagant narcissist. The thing about it is, though, you're absolutely right about this. If Trump loses popularity when he pays attention to himself, that's what happened during COVID, when he would talk about the press being unfair to him when people's grandmothers were dying alone in isolation. So this is kind of having that effect on him. If Trump had a little bit more elegance, maybe a little bit more commitment to the country, he might step down, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well, now he can't. Now he can't, because he needs to win. He needs to win, and he needs to pull this DOJ off of those 2 federal investigations, and he'll just have to fight it out, bare-knuckled in New York and Georgia, where he's about to be indicted again, we believe.
I know.
So, but I mean, if I were Trump, I wouldn't step aside right now. I mean, my own personal hide is on the line because of my political past, and I would make sure that I protected it with my political future. I mean, look, he could also have all this happen if a DeSantis win happens. But if a Biden reelection happens, he is effed. That's just the truth of it. He's got to be a little scared about all this.
He's got to be. And, I think DeSantis could beat Joe Biden in his sleep. I think that Joe Biden doesn't have a chance against any really competent and youthful and energetic opponent. Really, it's not that Donald Trump can't win. It's that he's the only person who really has a big chance of losing.
This summer, big box retailers are seeking a massive big government handout from Congress, paid for by consumers, smaller financial institutions, community banks, and local credit unions. That's according to the Electronics Payment Coalition, a sponsor of today's episode. It's called the Credit Card Competition Act, aka the Big Box Bill. Mega retailers are in favor of it, but the Electronics Payments Coalition is not. They say this big box bill would actually transfer billions from consumers to retailers through eliminating popular credit card rewards programs, weakening cybersecurity protections, and reducing overall access to credit for people who need it the most. You can visit stopthebigboxbaitandswitch.com to learn more. That's stopthebigboxbaitandswitch.com. The link is in the description. Learn more, and if you want to help them, tell your legislator to stand up to the retail giants and to support consumers and small businesses. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.